Okay, so to create a watercolor background to go with our sunflower, I want some blues and purples, um, and then we can use a little bit of green in there also. So I'm going to use 343 sapphire blue and grape 339 and leaf green 361. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is put some drops of the medium on the glass, and then I want to spread that around because I want this thinner than normal. If you could put water on there if you want. You start adding water and you dilute the color. If you use the medium, you retain the color. Now remember, our sunflower is like this, so more greens in the bottom left and then the purples and blues everywhere else. So I'm just going to add it. You can even turn the brush and hold it like this if it makes it easier for you. Very watercolory. I'm going to put some more of the medium down just because I'm going to thin with that versus thinning with water. Add a little bit more medium. Then I'm going to come in with some purple. Maybe add some purple up here. You could even use your sumi brushes if you wanted to. Add some more medium, just because I want to thin that down. Get more of a watercolor. I'm going to grab some of the blue, overlapping. So I'm using the brush on the side. I'm just kind of laying it down. Kind of mush those colors. So they become more translucent. In other words, the more you thin them with the medium, then they become more translucent, but still retain the color. You need to work pretty fast because that starts to dry. I'm moving in different directions because I don't want a pattern per se to show up. Grab a little more of the purple in here. This is going to be behind, so it's really not going to show, but I do want some color there just because it'll help even out the overall glass application of color so that it's more even as far as the firing goes, and I don't get some areas that are thicker and thinner. Alright, so let's take a look. I'm not going to set it down on there, but you can see kind of the coloring. I think I want more blue. up against where the flower is going to be. So I'm going to add more blue down here. Add a couple more drops of medium so that it'll move around. Not bad. I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to just come in here with some more of that green. Kind of blend it. I want some blue down here. Kind of want it where it's all the way around. This needs to go over a little bit. Okay, I like that. All right. Like I said, you just need to keep working it until you've got it blended out. I'm just checking. There's a couple of spots that there was a little heavier, like the color wasn't mixed. All right, so I'll let that dry, and then I'll show you what it looks like on top with the sunflower on top. Okay, but while it is drying, let me move it out of the way. And let's clean. I'm working on a silicone mat, and it's wonderful because it doesn't matter what you get on it, acrylics, glass, ceramic paint, it will just wipe clean, which is pretty awesome. Alright, so then what I want to do is I want to take my 3600 number 2. This is our Kolinsky liner. Don't know if you can see that. Nope. think you can kind of see it there. Number 2 liner. It's a sable. This is the GZ602 Copper Glitz. It's a premix, so you need to shake it until it liquefies. And you'll think it's mixed up, but you need to really scrape along the bottom to make sure it's really stirred up, because it's caked on the bottom. I don't know if you can kind of see that. So just make sure that that's completely mixed before you start using. So I'm going to put the lid back on. I like to use out of my lid. So I'm going to shake it again. So I can just put a little bit here in my lid and use it. So this is just an accent, but it's a way for you to really pump this up a little bit and make it shiny, blingy. So I can come in here and add fine lines, and I'm going to have to get closer so you can see this, which means I got to move this out of my way. Okay. Let me hold it up so you can kind of, there you go. See that? It's almost glittery. Hence the word glitz. So just with the itty bitty tippy toes of the brush, okay? I'm going to add some detail lines. Of the glitz. You could outline it. I'm not sure I want to do that yet. A lot of times I'll just build the pieces I'm going. So I'm just taking you on my journey, and then I'll come up with a decision. Maybe I will outline it with this. So if I wanted this outlined, see, there would be a petal. Doesn't mean I have to do it real heavy. It can just be even on one side if you wanted. So I am going back. Keep that stirred up as you're working, because it tends to settle. Short and long lines Don't make them all the same. So you can do some thick and thin. It does grab to the enamel because the enamel is dry. You're adding something wet. So you have to load more often. With the glitz, there is a little bit of what we call a burn off, meaning after it fires, if you rub your finger across that area, it can kind of come off on your finger, but it will grab what it needs to. And there'll still be plenty on there. Oops. I'm just doing these little ones down here. So I'm just on my tippy toes of the brush. Keep that mixed up. Constantly turn, make it comfortable. And don't forget the middle will be done later. And you could even do this later if you weren't sure. Fire it, see if you like it. Okay. And you can sign. I'll just put my initials on there. Everything's so small. It's hard to get the full name on there. Okay. So once again, that center will have some of the different textured frit, and our background is not quite dry yet, but it does have some of it's dry. So see that against that, isn't that pretty? But then we'll have the raised texture in the center. All right, after this, we're going to full fuse this. Again, mine is 96 COE, so I will put the schedule in the notes. Okay, so this is out of the kiln. I'm going to tilt it so you can see the shimmer of the glitz. And I have to tilt it towards a light for you to see that. See all the outline there. Now, I told you that after it was fired, there would be some burn off. So let's just take a paper towel and see if anything comes off. There's very little. There's a tiny bit of residue on the paper towel, but you can tell it's hardly anything. And I did notice that I forgot to outline this petal here. You can see there's none on it. Okay, so we did the different frit mixtures. So we had the paste with frit on it. We had just a combination of frit that we mixed up. This is just clear frit. And then this is some that we actually colored with enamels. Okay. And I left these in the cup so you can see that you can take those out of there and actually have the same thing on there. Okay. So I have some of the frit that I mixed up when I was doing these. So you can see how some of it started to dry on the top. This is just the enamels mixed, and then add the clear frit to it. Okay. And then the one that I had that was just clear with the layering mix that's hardened, now we can take and put colors over the top of it if we want. Okay, so let's do, I thought it would be fun just to drizzle the glitz over it, just for something really dramatic. But there's different ways that you can do it. And don't forget, you need to shake up the color until it's free from the bottom, and you can see that it's starting to get off the bottom there as I shook it up, so it's just falling down the side. So maybe just a little bit more. I tend to use out of the lid. So this is copper. So what I'm looking for is something that I want to put in that center, but I want it raised up just for something different. So you can take and you could drizzle or just paint over some of that frit that's just clear, and as long as you put it to a tack fuse or a contour fuse, you will still have the shape of the frit, and then you will have the added color. It's kind of, well, it's copper, so it's very shiny. Let's put something white behind that so you can see it. Okay, see how it's shiny, shiny? Okay, so, and you can put as much of that on there as you want. Remember, when you start melting the frit, if you go too hot, then the frit is going to diffuse the color that you have on top of it. But that's another way of coloring it. Okay? So it would be your choice what you want to do. I think I will build up just the clear and the layering mix. Get rid of that light, which I have some mixed up in my cup here. And then this will have to harden, and then I'll go back and put it on top. So you can just take it with your tool. And remember, this is some that I mixed up at least 6 months ago. And the nice thing about doing it like this is it can overlap onto the petals for a little more realistic type look. So I'm being kind of picky about, and I'll have to clean the glass off of anything that it touches, because I don't want that smear. Let me change ends and grab just the point. That way I can get some smaller pieces and tuck them in. And I wouldn't go more than 2 layers high. Just because if you go too hot with it, you don't want it to melt all over your piece. So everybody knows their kiln if it runs hot or cold. So keep that in mind when you start to do this. Sticking to my fingers. Whoop. So I'll come back in with a Q-tip and some vinegar, the white distilled vinegar. That's what I clean my glass with. And I will clean anywhere that I have a little bit of a smear. Oops. Trying to find a smaller piece. It's harder said than done. So just play with it a little bit and get something that you like. I think I like that. Don't forget to rinse that tool off. Like I said, this is kept for a long time. I think it's been over 6 months since I did that. And then, like I said, you can either come in with that glitz, you could come in with any of your enamels, your browns, and add it on there, but that will need to harden. You can put a fan on it and dry it, but that way it's in its shape and it's not going to change, other than if you fire it to a hotter temperature would be the only reason that it changes. Okay, so I will get this fired up and well, I'll get the color on it and fire it, and then I'll let you know, and I'll put the firing schedules below.